Hey.
Alright, so I saw this tweet a couple days ago, and I am shocked that I have not seen more people talking about this, as it has just come and gone like a gust of wind. But in a recent interview with Marc Spears, Ben Simmons sat down and said that if he had to be, if he could choose anywhere in the league to be traded to, he would choose the Philadelphia 76ers, which just off the bat, with that being the first thing I saw from this interview, that sounds insane considering what has transpired in the past couple of seasons for between Ben Simmons and the Sixers. And I don't know if people are just done talking about Ben Simmons after he's let us down so many times, but again, it just makes no sense to me that people saw this report and just didn't even bat an eye. Anyway, I actually read through the entire article. I'll be showing some bits and pieces here throughout this video, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think I might be sipping the Ben Simmons Kool-Aid as we approach the new year. And as I think we're all aware, Ben Simmons has been one of the weirder cases in NBA history. He was a first overall pick, was by no means a bust. In fact, was a very good player, made the All-Star game, I think in year 2 if I remember correctly, made multiple all-defensive teams, even made an All-NBA team at one point. Then I'm not sure if it was just his mental health that took a dive, or if he truly just forgot how to shoot a basketball, but that whole saga happened. The whole thing with the Hawks in Game 6 happened, which they talk about in the article. And then he had that weird back injury that everyone thought he was faking. He also expressed how he'd been having some mental health issues, which I think, at least for me personally, I thought that was more the main reason why he wasn't returning to basketball. But after reading through the article, it really does seem like this back injury was a very real thing. Not that I thought he was, lying about it, but it does seem like it was a much more severe injury than the public knew. But for me, the most important thing that I continued to read as I went through the article is that Ben Simmons, it seems like he has the right mindset now. In the past when we've been teased by these, possible Ben Simmons return dates, he never really seemed like he wanted to come back. And he explains it in this article that, the back injury was at the back of his mind for all of last season. Every time he tried to come back and make an effort to play for the Nets, he just wasn't his same self. He wasn't 100%. And he explains that. Now, do I think he's going to be a dominating player? Definitely not right when he comes back. When you miss the game of basketball, when you sit out for over a year, year and a half, close to 2 years, you're going to be not great when you first come back and play at an NBA pace. But long term, I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Simmons can get back to being an all-defensive player. Even when he was playing hurt last year, he was showing flashes. It wasn't a great overall play from him, but again, he was showing flashes here and there of being the same defensive menace that, again, earned him spots on multiple all-defensive teams. At the same time, though, I do want to, put the brakes on it for a second. I'm not trying to be a Ben Simmons dick rider here. I just think that he's on the right track. I'm gonna have to see it first to believe it, because again, it's been like 2 or 3 years since we've seen an effective Ben Simmons on the basketball court. But it does really seem like, again, at least from the article, that this back injury was way, way worse than he was letting on to the public throughout the time that he was injured. He mentions here that it wasn't even a basketball thing. The back injury was affecting his daily life. He was having trouble sitting down, standing up, just sleeping correctly. The back injury was, also a nerve injury, which was then causing pain in his legs. And he was saying how he wasn't even able to, jump off of his bad knee. And he was barely even able to dunk while playing last year. One thing that I did really respect in this interview is the topic of Kevin Durant and Kyrie leaving Brooklyn came up. Obviously, Ben Simmons was traded to Brooklyn for James Harden, and he was meant to be a good enough piece that, KD and Kyrie could be the 1 and 2, and then Ben Simmons could be that playmaker for them that could set things up, play defense, and just be a disruptor overall. And Marc Spears lately asked him in the interview, KD left, Kyrie left, why didn't you ask out? And Ben Simmons said that he wasn't really in a point or at a place where he could ask out, or at least that he felt comfortable asking out, because he knew he was injured. He knew that he didn't need to change teams or change locations or get a new change of scenery. He just needed to get healthy. He wanted to prove again to the league that he is good when he's healthy. And so he didn't give a shit about any trade rumors. He didn't say anything about that, which if you look back is true. And I respect that. Ben Simmons did not really complain much during his time in Brooklyn. At least he hasn't yet. Obviously, people were upset about that playoff series. I think it was 2 years ago against the Celtics, where he said he was going to come back for Game 4. But in hindsight, that wouldn't have made any sense at all, especially considering the Nets got swept that year. So I don't know what fans want from him. But I will also add that that answer is really funny, considering that the headline for this interview was the fact that Ben Simmons said that if he did want to get traded somewhere, it would be to Philadelphia. Obviously, he hasn't actually requested that, and this was just it was a question by Marc Spears about, would he want to return to Philadelphia? Still ironic regardless. It was funny. I will also add here that Ben Simmons' return to Philadelphia would be just so good content-wise. Obviously, the Philly fans still hate Ben Simmons, and I can't really blame them for that. But at the same time, if there is one thing I can respect about Philly fans, is that if they hate someone and that player then earns their respect back, they will welcome them back with open arms. And it's something that I appreciate, because usually Philly fans suck. Sorry, I'm a Boston fan. I had to throw that in there. I will just point out, we have a disgruntled point guard in Philadelphia right now by the name of James Harden. We have Ben Simmons. We could just redo the trade, Brooklyn and Philadelphia. It'd be that would be the funniest thing if that happened. Let's just set the scenario here. Ben Simmons comes back, is actually playing well. Maybe not like an all-star level season, but he's proven he can be a basketball player again. Just a basketball player. That's all we need. James Harden continues to hold out in Philadelphia. Him and Daryl Morey got their little Cold War going on. But let's say we get to the All-Star break, near the All-Star break, and these are the cases. If you're Philly, do you just ship James Harden back to Brooklyn for Ben Simmons? I'd consider it. And then the last thing I'll add here, there was also near the end of the article, Spears was asking Ben Simmons about Jacques Vaughn and their relationship, and I actually found this part pretty interesting too, because Ben Simmons made it make more sense, because they've had a feud, it seems like, since not a feud, I shouldn't say a feud, but they haven't necessarily been on the same page since Jacques Vaughn became head coach. And Ben Simmons explained it perfectly. Because when Ben Simmons first got to Brooklyn, Jacques Vaughn was still the assistant coach, and he pointed out that since Ben Simmons was injured and rehabbing, he just didn't really spend much time with the assistant coaches, so he just didn't really form a relationship with Jacques Vaughn. And then he continued the rehab as Jacques Vaughn was promoted to head coach, and they still just didn't have the best of relationships. But so far this offseason, Vaughn has made his way down to Miami, where Simmons has been working out, again, 5 days a week. And they've finally been able to connect and talk about things, and it seems like they're on the same page now. At least according to Ben Simmons, they're on the same page, so take that as you will. But Simmons also mentioned that they've agreed that Simmons should come back as the team's point guard and be the main facilitator, and I enjoy that a lot more than the Ben Simmons at center lineups that they were running last year. While I definitely think those could still work and those are a fun little switch up, Ben Simmons is a point guard. He's not a big man. He's someone that you could probably play at the 4 as a playmaking 4, point forward type guy. But for the most part, he's a facilitator. He doesn't belong in the paint. And I think with this new look Nets team with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, you've got Nick Claxton, who should be the starting 5 for this team anyway. I think Ben Simmons will slot in nicely, again, either as the true point guard or if he could play more of a playmaking 4 role. I think that will be the best way to get him initiated back into the NBA world. And the last thing I'm going to point out here to wrap up, because I've been monologuing for way too long about Ben Simmons, but at this point, he's claimed he's seen the hate, he's seen how bad these NBA fans, specifically Philly fans, can be towards him, and he just doesn't really seem fazed by it anymore, at least, again, according to this interview. And I think that's the right mindset to have for someone in Ben Simmons' case. He's blocked everyone else out. He mentioned he's not even really on social media that much anymore. And he just seems like someone who's ready to come back and just play basketball and just focus on basketball. And I think it's that part that has me wanting to believe in the Ben Simmons resurgence. Because even for right now, let me just explain this from like an investing standpoint. The Ben Simmons stock is at an all-time low. If you grab some Ben Simmons stock right now, no one's going to give a shit because no one really cares about Ben Simmons, the basketball player, yet. So if he comes back and he actually is a good basketball player again and plays like he used to, and he maybe even comes back even better than he was, then you have so much free Ben Simmons stock that you can then gloat to everyone else about. And to me, that's just a risk worth taking. But that'll be all. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see y'all in the next one.